Hello, listeners. Today, the pleasure of speaking with Meredith Katz, or MK, who is the co founder of Retrocycle, a Colorado nonprofit building a borrow and return network for reusable cups, starting with the Colorado Cup, launching in May 2026 in Breckenridge. In this conversation, we get into what it looks like to lead yourself first while building something uncertain, regulating your nervous system, really staying steady through the emotional waves of your personal life and professional life and running a business, and using fear as a signal instead of a stop sign. One of the really inspiring moments in this conversation is when Meredith talks a little bit about her career break to freelance in photo and video production to go woofing. You can check that out. It's pretty neat. Study herbalism and really just travel. Her story is one of self reflection, inspiration, and facing your fears. So I hope you enjoyed this episode as much as I did. Welcome to the Live Fearlessly podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Benjamin Ritter, and it's time to get fearless. So, MK, I don't know if can we just go? Can we roll with it?
Let's roll.
Okay, we're cycling. Get it? Dun, dun. So, MK, I look at your jacket and I have to say I kind of feel like you're like a NASCAR racer or something. Was that like I feel like a motorcycle racer? Was this a playoff of cycle or was this just totally unintended?
I'm going more for Star Trek vibes, but we can go with NASCAR too. I'm originally from Indianapolis, where the Indy 500 rules. So, we can go with NASCAR jackets. But I like swag. I actually enjoy thrifting clothes and then putting retrocycle patches on them.
Well, I mean, that just sounds so on brand. Like Borrow and
Right?
Return Network. I mean, there's some sort of like marketing campaign here. I just see you and your team like going into thrift stores, like secretly putting retrocycle patches on all the clothes that are there. That's flex.
And
That's
just leaving
flex.
it there.
Yeah, just leave it. Seriously, just leave it. I think they're gonna have to up the cost though of that because it's gonna be like limited edition, you know?
I never thought about leaving it. I usually take it home and then get the iron out, but that's I'm gonna have to bring it back now.
Yeah. It's like a new type of graffiti, right? It's like the Bainskis of thrift stores.
Exactly. Just slap a patch on it. That's
Awesome.
that could be
Awesome.
a campaign of it on its own.
Yeah, yeah. It's a little bit of it's what they used to do like guerrilla marketing. I don't see it as much anymore, but that could work. And it's just totally on brand because I mean, what you're the one that should share it. Like what is your broader mission right now? Like, what gets you up and gets you motivated each day?
What gets me up and gets me going each day is a bit broader than retrocycle, I'd say. I think each of us have a unique light to bring into this world, whether that's on a cute cuddle with my dog or hanging out with a friend or making the impact that I want to with my team with retrocycle. And so I'd say that is really what gets me up every day and try to think what exciting adventure is going to happen today? What good is going to happen today that I get to co-create with? And that's what gets me up every day. We can dig
Hmm.
into retrocycle, but I think that's the broader goal every day, and that keeps me pretty grounded.
Yeah, we have a variety of different aspects of ourselves, and especially as a kind of founder and CEO, that we all sometimes that is like becomes our full costume that we wear all the time. But really, we are so much more than that. I actually had a moment today where I got up and I was just on calls, and I was like, I need a break, and I walked over and I went into my fiance's office, and the dog was just laid out there, just like completely like he just like completely stretched out, and I like had this moment of joy, and I was like, oh, That's part of me. Part of me is doggy cuddles for sure. And then, I have my cat next to me on the heating pad, and part of that is like cat cuddles, and then part of it is like walking outside and like saying hi to the trees in my neighborhood. And there are so many more parts of us than just our job. Uh, so outside of those moments of joy, MK, like, and outside of the work itself, what do you feel like you want to accomplish like right now? And you think about this chapter in your life, like what is something that you would say that that chapter is like being well lived?
Mm, I think for me, this chapter, I wouldn't say even outside of Retrocycle, but especially with Retrocycle, is steering. If my body is a ship and my emotions are the ocean, it's steering the ship home, which would be to a peaceful state. I think it's the world feels really noisy and chaotic and distracting so much right now. I know I'm not alone in that. And I think that, and I feel so many waves throughout the day. Sometimes the waves are huge and torrentious, and sometimes the waters are calm. So I would say right now it's really navigating myself through different emotional states and staying calm. I wouldn't say, or yeah, I guess calm more so as not a continuous state, but staying steady and throughout a variety of situations of building a startup with
Mm,
uncertainty, of moving across states, of trying new things, just really of anything with life is how do I regulate my nervous system so I can feel the most home that I can in my own body. And that's really
mm,
the chapter I think is in this time is really leading myself.
yeah, we talk about fear a lot in the work that I do, and it's live fearlessly. And it's not to say that there isn't fear, just it's that you're able to use it as information and not allow it to turn your ship around, not allow it to poke holes in your ship, so you can still float, you can still kind of get to where you're going. You said a couple of those areas that I think might be a little nerve wracking at times, like building a startup, moving. What are some other things that some people might like be like, oh yeah, I've felt that at some time, that you wake up and like these passing moments of like, oh, that could be, that's some fear here. Like, what are those thought bubbles in your life right now?
For me, a few of them are presenting, I would say, to audiences that I'm used to. That feels like right here, yes, like
Yeah.
that feels like a new area of vulnerability. And so speaking and being able to represent myself, represent my organization in the way that I want to, that sometimes feels like a lot of pressure. I would also say keeping everything straight and keeping up with my systems of organizing my tasks with my larger goals and really staying consistent with that are a few of the is another area. But I would say the biggest thing is really putting yourself out there and presenting and saying, this is who I am. This is what I'm trying to do with my team. And this is why you should care. And this is why you should also be a part of this.
Mm,
That takes some guts for me that I was not used to. And I've had I've presented before. I've presented at company board meetings and various departments, but when it's your own vision and team, it hits different in my opinion. It weighs more for me. And that wow, every how I represent myself really matters, not in a way that I want to over perfect how and over engineer how I show up, but that I really care and that I represent a team and a mission bigger than just myself.
mm. So how have you been dealing with this? That that sounds big. this is this is who I am. Uh, I mean, how did you? Yeah, like walk me through the fear to action and how you've been able to accomplish this.
I think like anything else, it's a muscle that it has to strengthen. Like, for example, this first podcast that I'm doing will probably sound very different than the 20th podcast I do one day, maybe. And I think it's a lot of building that muscle and figuring out what that path is, like anything else, like going to the gym. And so for me, that's understanding and thinking about what is it I want to convey, and how what are the visuals that support that? What are the words that support that? And because communication is it's everything in what we do. And so I think it's the preparation that is really essential. Like for example, I've been working on our company video. It's on our website about how it works. This is another example. And I think I've spent 3 weekends now consecutively working on it because I don't want it to be like any other How It Works video. I want it to be something that's really unique and shows the Retrocycle essence, which is a little quirky and futuristic and inviting. And that requires extra time to really think about what is my intention here and how do I ensure that comes through.
Hmm. So there's this, I hear like a solid understanding of our brand and how I want people to perceive us. And then I'm going to take the time to prepare to make sure that that story is heard in a way and felt in a way that makes like is going to hopefully create the impact that I'm interested in. But the time, so you spend time creating that, then you're spending time intentionally, strategically, building that so that you're then able to create the impact that you want. Probably feel a little bit more comfortable about what you're putting out into the world. And you also mentioned how this first podcast be different than your 20th podcast. And so it's understanding that you need to fail forward. Like if I have a goal that I want to experience this thing, I want to face this discomfort, I want to create this impact and spread this mission, I'm going to have to tell my story. Because if not, then they're not going to make a difference and nothing's going to change. I'm really interested in like how did you get here? So you look at your background and you had a career that was not retrocycle. And I saw it looks like some introspection and some work and some personal goal pursuits that happened, which whenever like I talk to someone that's kind of at this precipice of change or evolution, they're like, I'm just going to quit everything and go somewhere. I'm just going to do something. But it's not often going to lead to a solution unless there's some sort of like intention or exploration or some sort of like personal pursuit that occurs within that process. Like I've seen a lot of people quit their job, travel around the world, come back and get the same job. So something happened, and I would love to like hear a little bit of the story you're willing to share.
Certainly. So I guess it started at not the very beginning, but when I was 22, I graduated from Indiana University. I studied finance and I was most passionate about social entrepreneurship. I was involved in microfinance clubs and different social justice clubs and groups. And that was a majority of my travel in school. But I, like everyone else, needed to graduate and start making money. I didn't want to move back in with my parents. And I was handed a book called Delivering Happiness, written by Tony Hsieh, who was the CEO of Zappos when I was in a used bookstore. And this older gentleman said, "You have to read this. You have to read his story." And after I read what Zappos was about, if you're familiar with Zappos, they were building what to me was the company of the future of and experimenting with different government structures of ways to work together. And I thought this is where I want to be. And I actually made a rap video that is taken off the internet so no one can find it. To the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air soundtrack with my own lyrics about why they should hire me as a financial analyst. And I got the job. they actually didn't have a role open for a junior analyst. And I ended up working at Zappos for 6 years. And and I started in finance, but I moved my way to marketing. I was really fascinated with how do you grow a company? How do you win somebody over? Not just, with the best price, but with their hearts and with emotion, because we make so many decisions based on emotion, more than we think than with versus logic. And I was really fascinated with storytelling and brand, and that led me to even further into advertising, where later I was at VRBO and in another company after that. And I I think what happened was I got further and further away from my why after a while. Like, I got really good at understanding media and understanding conversion, the technical parts of it and the brain part of marketing, but I felt like I lost my heart somewhere along the way. And while I love the people I worked with, I wasn't sure why I was doing what I was doing anymore, to the point where it got harder and harder to show up every day, to the point where I decided to quit, and I wanted to get back in touch with what is real. So I woofed. If no one's heard of woofing, it stands for Worldwide Opportunities on Organic Farms. And I moved to Asheville, North Carolina, where I got poison ivy at least 7 times and was probably the worst farmer in history, even though I loved it. But was a total novice and was just so humbled by the incredible people I got to work under, and studied herbalism and did a little bit of travel as well. But all throughout there was I would say this period was about a year and a half I took off. And in the beginning, it was just it was disconnecting and from work and screens and reconnecting to nature. But over time, as time passed, there was this question in my mind about, what are you going to do when you get back? And it wouldn't stop nagging at me. And I tried to put it at ease. And I what I then and that question just kept nagging, to the point where I had to change the question I was asking, which is, well, what are you going to do next? Doesn't have to be forever. What are you going to do for the next year? What excites you the most? And after connecting to the land and serving the land for a while, I was passionate about sustainability. And I went to a yoga festival, and I saw that at this yoga festival, they had no waste. It was everyone brought plates, and there was a dishwashing station there that everybody was washing their dishes and reusing them. And the dishwashing station was totally disgusting. There was like food floating in it, and I don't know how effective it was, but how people were able to work together to and come together for a solution like that. I was really inspired by that, to the point where I thought, well, maybe how could I improve this? Could I take a food truck and make it a dishwashing truck? And what are some ways that we can make events zero waste? And was following that thread of sustainability I was really passionate about. And I ended up applying to a fellowship, called a climate-based fellowship, and where I was working on this project I called Project No Cup Left Behind. And it was in this fellowship where I met a gentleman named Joey Baugh, who was a former Army officer, who had just graduated from Georgetown and getting his master's. And he was working on a project called Project Repeat that was focused on reusables on airplanes and circulating cups outbound on airplanes. And we both had totally different backgrounds, and he thought what I was working on was cool. I thought what he was working on was cool, and we thought, well, let's come together and do some research together. And we ended up continuing that research after the fellowship ended, and we actually both abandoned those original ideas because we found a solution abroad that inspired us so wildly that we thought, we have to bring this to the United States. Why is this not in the United States? And that was the borrow and return network. We were in Munich, Germany, when we saw that we were able to get a cup, borrow a cup from a cafe for €1 and then we can return it to one of 20,000 cafes across the country, and that this network had eliminated tens of millions of cups. And so when you see a solution like that and you think about a food truck that you're working on converting and the magnitude of that solution of people coming and working together to eliminate that waste, it's not an event, but it is still waste in our society and a massive amount of it. It was when we observed this that we thought this has to come to the United States. And then that's how Retrocycle was born. It was an inspiration from the borrow and return network of Recup in Germany. Oh, you're in mute.
Incredible. It's like you can kind of see the through lines, as you look back, and it seems like a straight line. And of course that happened. Of course it worked out this way. And I don't know if it felt like that when you were going through all the different decisions you were making. As you look back, like you say the story so like streamlined. Were there other branches and other ideas and other choices that you had to say no to, or was this like a very clear choice and decision, like in a decision network?
Were there other decisions? I once thought about building a map of all the farms in the US. There at one point I bought the domain called findyourfarmers.org, and because I wanted to find my farmer, I find my local farmer
Mm-hmm.
and buy directly from them and not go through the massive food chain and help their margins. But I I decided that wasn't the idea. I was really passionate about helping farmers after, especially woofing. I also got into videography for a little bit, and I give so much credit to videographers and filmmakers because it's so much work. After doing it for a year, I'm so grateful for the skill set, but I saw that it wasn't for me to do full time. I think I had some other ideas that pop up to me that were really exciting, like those few of getting into film and getting into farm work, or supporting farmers. But I think this idea, there was something that was magnetic about it, that I thought I could be obsessed with this for a very long time, and expanding this network, and and building something that could last. And that's actually why we decided to make Retrocycle a nonprofit, is because we want it to last much longer than after we're gone, and that the network will live on. And something like
Mm-hmm.
this, with this kind of vision, deserves a board, and that um of talented individuals that oversee that this really serves the people. And so there were other ideas, but I think the borrow and return network was really exciting to me.
I work with a lot of clients on career clarity, and a lot of them are really afraid of making the wrong choice. But it sounds like you had this innate passion within you, and you finally like you got the desire, the momentum, the motivation to woof and to go like dive in, and then you played like you kind of were in a sandbox and you started picking stuff up and exploring what was there, and then that led you to another choice and to another choice, another choice, and some of them worked out, some of them didn't, but there's all within that sandbox. And then you ended up with this kind of fellowship that ended up connecting you with another individual, and then you found this magnetic idea that is now Retrocycle, which is just like it's such an incredible example of how to create like the next thing for you based on the things you care about. And I'm sure there was fear along the way, but what an incredible story. I guess you mentioned the fear, and sometimes people see fear and they stop. And I look at your story and I go, oh, MK saw fear and moved, like did something. Like, and I'm trying to like get to the heart of it, like, well, why? Like, why did MK move and take action instead of going back and getting just another job? And like, what? I don't need the best answer. I don't. There is no best answer here. There's no right answer. It's just like an exploratory question. I'd love to hear what comes up. comes up to you when you think about this idea?
Certainly. Oh, I love talking about fear because, man, we all have it. It's so relatable. And I used to think fear meant I wasn't ready to do something, but now I really see it as a signal is that I'm doing something that really matters to me, that I really care about. And I think the bigger the vision, the bigger the emotional range that comes with building that vision. And entrepreneurship feels like emotional exposure therapy, truly, because you're carving your own path. You're not going down the well beaten path of maybe taking a role that's been in existence for a while and doing things your own way with your own flavor. And there was a lot of fear I remember in that time period about what am I going to do next, or what's coming next. And then sometimes there's even external influences like parents asking like what are you up to, and maybe sometimes there's even a little bit of comparison of you see somebody who's chasing their dreams and you think, well, I wish I knew what that was for me. And I think what I ultimately had to swallow was that your trust in yourself has got to be bigger than your fear. Your fear will always be there, and courage is really the steadiness alongside that fear. It's still there. I feel fear right now talking out loud and someone listening to this. But it's it's a daily task of devotion that I owe to myself, that my trust in myself and in my team to build something that hasn't been built before here in Colorado. It has to be bigger than my fear. There's so many reasons why this won't work, right? I could name a million reasons why it doesn't work. I could also name you a million reasons why this absolutely can work. And I choose the perception that I bring. And I think I had to unlearn a lot. I had to unlearn a lot of fear, and the right way of doing things versus just following my own path of, I had to take a year and a half off to figure out what it is. And I had to become a house sitter. I was a dog sitter for over a year to save money on rent, to buy me time to figure this out. And that looked probably crazy to some people. But to me, it made sense because I prioritized building something that really mattered to me. And I didn't know exactly what that was until I found it, but I had to focus on the belief that I'm going to find it. I trust I'm going to find it. I trust that if I put in the work and the energy and the heart into finding what that impact is for me to bring to this world, that that it will find me. And I really do believe that Retrocycle found me and that Joey and I as co-founders are meant to bring this to life.
Hmm. It's a beautiful place to be when you can trust yourself more than your fear. I mean, I
It's
can,
hard.
yeah, it is. And a lot of us have given fear, we've been feeding fear for many more years than we've been feeding the trust in ourselves. And it is difficult to switch. And then, because you have to do it consistently to eventually then now be, and say bigger than your fear, but to see that your fear is just a portion of action and not a defining aspect of yourself. Yeah, the fact that, like, thank you for sharing, by the way, like the dog sitting piece. Like I walked around with a pizza sign on my back, right? I bartended for 10 years. Like I did everything and anything to make money, have social experiences, and to build the things that I care about today. And we are capable, I think, of so much more than we think we are, and there's so many more solutions than we think exist to help us bring what we care about into existence. So
Certainly.
what is next for you, MK? How do people follow your journey, and what are you really excited about coming up in 2026? Because I know it's a big year for you.
It is. People can follow the Retrocycle journey. I don't know if I've officially plugged in what Retrocycle is, but Retrocycle is a Colorado nonprofit that is building reuse systems across Colorado, starting with our first program, the Colorado Cup, which launches this May in Breckenridge, Colorado. And how it works is if you get a coffee to go, and that cup is typically held onto for 16 minutes, and then it heads to the garbage. And so we intend to solve that with a borrow and return network across Colorado, where cafes can stock the same reusables across the state. And to borrow a cup, you just ask for your drink in the Colorado cup. You pay a $2.50 deposit. And then when you're done with that, whenever you are, that either that same day, that same week, that next month, you can return it to any cafe in the network and you'll get that $2.50 off a purchase there. So that is the system. It launches this May in Breckenridge, which we're super excited about. We couldn't do this without our cafe partners. They make this possible. They're amazing, and they give us amazing feedback too, and they make a program like this better. So that's a bit about the system, and you can follow along by following us on LinkedIn at Retrocycle, on Instagram with it's retrocycle.us. And yeah, I would love it if everyone could follow along. Come borrow a cup this summer. Come to Breckenridge. It's incredible. Like one of the most gorgeous places I've ever been. And take a photo in the Colorado Cup because we would love to see it.
Wow. And I think just forgive me if I'm wrong, are governments like behind you on this? Like, is this something that is it's not just a consumer themselves, but this is like a kind of a policy movement?
Yes, it is. So we partner as well with local governments to help support and even incentivize cafes. And so we build even programs together of what that could look like. And so that way it makes it easier for us to try out a program as a community rather than as a
Wow.
cafe on my own. Another thing that we do too is we want this to be a celebration of individuality and art. So actually every cup has local art on it. We have one artist per year who designs the Colorado Cup. We have hot cups and cold cups, so self-explanatory for hot drinks and cold drinks. And on our cold cups, we actually put local artwork and the local name. So in Breckenridge, if you get a hot drink, you'll get the Colorado Cup, but if you get a cold drink, you'll get the Breck Cup, which has the ridge line, and that will be
Wow.
the same across the state to support our local cultures, the local beauties that we have across the state. And we think that makes this program just so much more beautiful and special and interesting. There are so many things in life, buildings that are brown or and maybe stale. And we didn't want this reuse system to be one of them. I mean, Colorado has so much to offer as a state that we wanted to have a system that mirrored that. So, yeah, thank you for bringing that up, the partnership piece. And
Yeah.
another big reason, yeah, as a nonprofit, it's great to collaborate with both government and private sector, and then together we build solutions.
Incredible. From cup to government. No. So, MK, thank you for your time. For listeners, all the links will be in the show notes. Check out Retrocycle. Grab your hot or cold cup. I feel like your cold cups are gonna get out of stock because people are just gonna want the art. your but hey, if they get to reuse them, then that's the goal too. So, thank you again for your time, MK, and for sharing your fearless journey with us.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Thanks for listening, everyone. Now get out there and live fearlessly.